We'll stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with that, we'll open our regular meeting of the Houston County Board. First item of business is the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
We do have one addition to the agenda, which is to set the date for the TNT meeting, which is planned for December 14th at 6 p.m. here in this room. I don't know if that.
I'll make a motion
can just
to
be
add
it.
that to the agenda.
Okay,
Is that part of the consent then, or would that be?
That's an action.
That's an action item?
Yes,
December, what date was that?
14th.
December.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion. One thing I want to ask is with regard to the consent agenda, that item number 4. Are we going to do that as a consent item, or are we going to move that to an action?
We should move that to action item.
We should leave it as a consent agenda, but if you want to, that's fine. Then we can discuss it.
Yeah, we should discuss it.
Okay.
So is that all right to make that change, move number 4 consent to action?
It's been requested, so yeah.
Right.
yeah, let's make it number 18.
Okay.
And I added 17 for the TNT, we'll call it number 18, even though we can discuss it before the end.
I want to ask the people who made the motion in the second to approve the agenda, if they can, if that's all right with them to make
With
that change
amendments?
in their motion.
So are you asking approval for consent agenda now, or are you going
We have a
to?
motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. In discussion, I asked to change it.
With amendments?
So does that amendment, that change meet with the approval of the people who made the motion?
I thought we approved. Teresa
Okay,
made a motion to
I'll make
approve
a
the
motion to
agenda
approve
and then,
the agenda.
Right.
And Eric seconded.
Right.
With
Then I
the-
asked the question, should we change this agenda, moving a consent item to the action item?
oh,
Oh, I see.
That was,
That's okay with me.
So you okay
That's
with that?
fine.
Okay, so motion made and seconded to approve the agenda, including the change from consent to action of item number 4. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is approval of the previous minutes. The first being the board meeting September 14th of 2021. So moved.
second,
Motion made and seconded to approve that board meeting September 14th. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the work group session, September 21st, 2021. So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the work group session minutes from September 21st. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Carries. Public comment. Come forward, we need to know your name.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Max Forrester. I'm a labor representative with AFSCME Council 65. I know some of you on this board, but it's good to meet the rest of you. I am here to talk about consent agenda item number 4, the one that was just made into an action item, just to offer the position of the union. The proposal was.
Is now the time to do that, or is it when we do the discussion, or are you not going to participate in the discussion?
We may, if this is an open item. That
I mean,
we
it's an
can-
open item, public comment, but
he can give his,
sure, I just don't want, I don't want to hear it a second time.
We
That's
can
all
enter
I'm
this,
saying.
we can enter this into the record.
Okay.
Currently, the proposal is to hire a lead social worker at the C42 and to bring this person in at step 8. The union opposes the job offer at a step 8 on the grounds that it violates Article 11, subsection B. Employees newly hired or rehired after January 1st, 1982 shall be paid no higher than step 4 of their classification, beginning with the first day of work, and shall advance through the increments provided by the wage scale. Anniversary dates will remain unchanged for employees who are reclassified. Now, there has been some discussion about whether or not this should apply to only exempt employees or only non-exempt employees. Here, the argument of the union is that this makes no distinction between exempt and non-exempt employees. It just says employees, meaning that they're without qualifiers. This should apply to all employees covered under this bargaining unit contract. And further, that in terms of the wage scale being applying only to waged employees, only to non-exempt employees, everything else in this particular subdivision of this article would apply to an exempt employee in terms of moving through a step scale, for instance, or anniversary dates remaining unchanged. These apply to exempt employees. There is no reason for this to be understood as applying solely to non-exempt employees. So we can return to this later, but we just want to get that.
Well, I know we're coming back to it.
Okay, good.
Okay,
We are gonna need the guests to just say who they are for the record.
everybody that's here now,
Yeah. I mean, I need everyone.
if they
to see.
speak, they have to say,
But not otherwise.
if they're not speaking, they're just listening, whether they have to say who they are.
Okay,
We used to have a sign-in sheet.
I usually always write who attended the meeting at the beginning
We can,
of my notes.
we can send around a
But if
sign
you're
up
not
sheet.
comfortable sharing that, I guess.
Well, I just,
No, we
I
just
always
need a
just
sign
put
up
who
sheet.
it was in attendance of the meeting.
So hand it out. This paper around, you can also.
Yeah.
yeah, just have a sign-in sheet, that's good.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? This time. Hearing none, we will move forward. We have a 9:30 appointment with Minnesota Department of Transportation for their 10-year highway investment plan. But that's not till 9:30, so let us start, what?
They could actually start early. It's not like,
If
it's-
they're ready.
Are they
if
here?
they're ready. Oh.
Is
Right.
that Tracy there? That's,
Heather from MnDOT.
Oh, Heather.
So
okay.
if
Okay.
I could be ready, I just need to, if I can have opportunity to share my screen, I have a PowerPoint I can present to the board.
Okay.
Okay.
That works for you. And
Yeah.
good morning, I should say. Thank you for letting us meet with you virtually. I'm gonna have to drive and get my apples another time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just bringing my PowerPoint up here. And I'm gonna try and, see if I can get the screen sharing to work in only one try today. It's not Monday, so maybe I'll have that luck. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, if everybody's ready, I will introduce myself. We may have a few other MnDOT staff kind of joining in through the presentation. But my name is Heather Luke, and I am the MnDOT District 6 Planning Director. Also joining us virtually right now is Tracy Schnell, and she is one of my great planners in our office that helps me out and helps take care of planning in Southeast Minnesota. I'm going to move on to the next slide here. For today's presentation, we're going to be sharing information on transportation planning activities in the state, at the state level, and also at District 6. I'll be going over updates to our 10-year district roadway and bridge work plan, an overview and share, how the funding has changed since we last had opportunity to speak with you. And then we'll end the conversation with some local and regional project updates and see if you guys have any questions for us. And can you make sure everybody can hear me okay?
Yep, we hear you.
Perfect. The first plan I'd like to update everybody on is one that is being done at the statewide level, and it's called the Statewide Multimodal Transportation Plan, or SMTP. And this is a plan that is updated every 5 years and is actually required under state and federal law. And every 5 years, it's updated for a 20-year time horizon. The SMTP is a high-level plan that really kind of sets the policy and priorities for everything we do with our other planning endeavors and how we do our construction programming. And some of the focus areas in this plan update, which are new compared to last time, include aging infrastructure, climate change, equity, safety, and various transportation options. This is the planning process and engagement for this is almost over, but it's very important. It's a very important plan for us because it does really kind of set a policy and gives us guidance on how we program and who we should be talking to as we go out and engage with folks. Another plan that we're updating, that we're just starting to update, is called the Minnesota State Highway Investment Plan, MNSHIP. MNSHIP takes that SMT policy and strategy to give us direction how we invest in our trunk highway system within our MNSHIP investment target areas. Now, what do I mean by MNSHIP investment target areas? Well, currently, we kind of have 4 main areas where we focus on how we invest in our roadway system. It includes an area in asset management, which consists of pavement condition and bridge condition. It also includes an area called critical connections, which consists of our bicycle and accessible pedestrian infrastructure, and also traveler safety and regional and community investment priorities. Now, taking all these different areas and how we would describe this investment strategy currently is balancing our investments in repairing and maintaining our existing state highways infrastructure with strategic investments in improving travel time reliability. The public engagement for this is just starting, and we appreciate if you all or folks who have opportunity to see this presentation, check out the website I have up here on our minnesotago.org, and gives you opportunity to provide your input on how you think MnDOT should be investing in our state system. I'm going to guess next year when I visit, we'll maybe see some new areas of investment, such as with new and emerging technologies, dealing with CAV, and more of it, maybe emphasis on climate change and where we are investing in our system to be equitable. Moving on, I'm going to cover some more regional plan updates we're working on. The first I'm going to talk about is the district freight plan. And this is an example of a model plan that we are developing with freight needs and issues specific to District 6. And it kind of comes out of the statewide freight plan. And the long-term objective of this plan is to identify opportunities to improve freight infrastructure for all modes that use our system in Southeast Minnesota. And these future investments that come out of this plan, well, we hope to help increase the economic competitiveness of the region. The plan is going to provide an up-to-date assessment on freight needs and issues specific to District 6. It's going to identify a list of strategies to improve freight mobility. And we're going to take some of that long-term planning and programming and that we learned from District 6 and put it into the next statewide plan. Where we're at with this, we actually started updating this plan this past spring, and we're in the data gathering phase and have been reaching out to freight carriers and manufacturers in Southeast Minnesota doing interviews. Also, we are conducting a virtual open house, and it is live for public input. And we would, appreciate everybody taking a few minutes of your time and checking this out and attending the virtual open house and filling out a survey regarding freight in Southeast Minnesota. There's multiple efforts happening dealing with transit this year in Southeast Minnesota. I'm only going to highlight a few of those planning efforts. At the district, we are kicking off something called the Local Human Service Coordination Plan. And this plan is going to help us redefine our goals regarding transit and transit service transportation and help measure our region's capacity to serve those needs. As a statewide agency, they're actually doing an intercity bus study. Recently in Southeast Minnesota, in August, we held something called a Southeast Minnesota Transit Roundtable. And this was an opportunity for a broad group of transit stakeholders, the ones that are stakeholders in the rural areas, to learn more from each other on what they're doing. And also, we had some presentations from our Office of Transit and Active Transportation. This is something that we're going to start holding annually, and it's just a good way to bring everybody together, because transit is so important in our area, and especially how do we connect our make it better and connect it in our rural segments. Recently, you may have seen this in the news, there is a CAV shuttle testing in Rochester going on. And our CAVX office is testing this autonomous shuttle. So if you do happen to visit Rochester, urge you to check it out. It is free. And an official public kickoff event is going to be held on September 30th. And it'll run for almost a year to gather information and see how it operates in a city environment. Now on to what are we doing to improve the roadway system in Southeast Minnesota? I'm going to first give you an overview, a reminder of what our 10-year plan consists of, and then I'll move on to more specific projects in Houston County and then at a broader level in our Southeast Minnesota region. So the 10-year work plan, it consists of two different time frames. The first being something that we call the STIP, and the STIP stands for the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, and we'll call that years 1 through 4. Our STIP years for the plan currently would be years 2022 through 2025. And projects that are in the STIP are considered program with a dedicated funding source. And we have investments in the areas to keep up those pavement conditions, bridge conditions, and safety improvements in our area. The second time frame of our district 10-year work plan is called the CHIP, the Capital Highway Investment Plan. And this is years 5 through 10. Currently, it's years 5 through 10, and our 10-year work plan would be from 2026 through 2031. Both of these plans are updated annually, and these plans are updated based on changing investment targets, forecast for our funds, what we'll receive. So every year we take into account where those investments are coming in at, the funding targets, but also what we've heard when we do public out to align to both our MnDOT system need as well as our region needs. This slide here is a comparison of our anticipated budget for 2021 through 2030 when we visited you last year, and that is the green line. The blue line represents the anticipated budget for the upcoming 10 years, 2022 through 2031. Things have changed. If you recall, I had mentioned that our long-range planning of our projects is based on that 20-year revenue forecast from MnSHIP, and every year that is updated for the next 4 years. This past year, in our, if you want to call it our CHIP years, we actually had a fairly significant cut in our CHIP years that caused us to have to unfortunately delay many of our projects that we'd hoped to be planning for future programming. But that's not the only thing our funding investment, is based on. We also get a certain amount of money to spend on our NHS system versus our non-HNS system. It's very much a big puzzle piece in trying to put together how can we maintain our system here in Southeast Minnesota. The next two slides I'm going to go over fairly briefly. This first one shows where our pavements are in poor and good condition. Currently, we're doing pretty good as far as our pavement in poor conditions. But as I spoke about, we're seeing reductions in our funding. So by 2031, our amount of poor is going up. And it's echoed here, we're doing pretty darn good in our pavement in good conditions, but as funding decreases, the amount of pavements in good condition go down. This slide is regarding our bridge conditions, poor on the left here and good on the right. Yeah, and as you know, that funding again is decreased, we do unfortunately see some of the, we do see the bridge poor condition going up and the good condition going down. This is actually somewhat of a reflection is in the CHIP years at 26 through 2031 timeframe. At the state level, a large portion of what MnDOT receives in federal funds is currently dedicated to the major bridge project up in Duluth, the Watnick Bridge. If there's different funding comes through to fund that project, we may see some, we'll likely, hopefully, see some of that funding come back to Greater Minnesota, so we can get more bridges into our planning and programming and maintain our bridges in good condition. I'm going to do a disclaimer here because I just want to really emphasize our list of our planned projects in particular is really a snapshot in time. They've changed since last year and are subject to future change. Real briefly here, this is a slide of projects that were to be constructed this past year or 2021. The one project in particular was to be a project, bridge repair project on Money Creek here. That project has been delayed due to staffing and supply shortages. This map shows our projects in our Levin County area, and there were PDFs of these maps supplied. So once you've had a chance to review those, if there's any projects in particular you have questions on, please do reach out to me directly or funnel your questions through Brian. These are our projects in our CHIP years at 26 through 31. Now my next slide is actually a Houston County specific project slide showing our projects in 22 through 31. And next year in 2022, we're going to be kicking off an analysis in Brownsville for improving the geometrics. There at the 5-layered intersection, that was just in the past couple of weeks, that conversation between staff at MnDOT and our state aid office and Brian started. So we're excited to be able to partner with you all on that. In the future, that Money Creek project will be done. And then we're actually with that project, I learned recently that we're only going to be repairing, doing an overlay of one of the bridges. And we're currently, they're currently evaluating, is this something that will be able to be done under traffic or not? In currently in 2026, we're going to be resurfacing a segment of Highway 16 here, north of Holka and up into La Crescent. Our project manager has been reaching out and gathering information, feedback from both those areas. In 2027, we're going to be repaving a segment of Highway 76 from Caledonia to Houston. Then in 2029, we have a resurfacing project happening from Spring Grove to Caledonia. In 2030, we are planning a reconstruction of Highway 16 in Houston. And when we are aware that they do have utility replacement needs, and our PM is working through them to hopefully that 2030 timeframe will work for the city of Houston. And also in 2030, we're going to be replacing a bridge on Highway 16 here over Crystal Creek. Any questions in particular on those upcoming projects?
That project that goes through Houston for 2030, has that been pushed back? I thought that was going to happen sooner.
Yes, that unfortunately was pushed back with the funding cuts we received. We are going to look at maybe opportunities. Can that be advanced? But it was quite challenging for us with those funding cuts. For the most part, the majority of we tried to keep as much as the projects that we had planned in our program, and we were only able to bring a few into that year 2031. So we are going to be working with the city of Houston on that, and our PM has reached out to them.
Okay. And the 3 bridges in Money Creek, they're just going to be repaving. They're not going to be replacements.
Yes, it should be a resurfacing of the deck, and it's actually only going to be one of those bridges.
Just
I think I have yep.
Okay.
I think I have a future slide up where I have that, actual bridge number. Not that it might, you might not know what it is, but I can send you a quick map in the future so you can see which one it is.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wasn't there going to be a project near Brownsville on Highway 26 and County 3, I believe?
Yes. It's not a project yet. We just have kind of kicked off the process to do an analysis of the intersection to help program and plan a future project. But we're going to do that engineering study first on what's the best way to fix that intersection.
Okay.
Okay, if you think of anything else, just look, please speak up and let me know. Okay, some local project updates. I knew I had a few different, I'll just kind of highlight some of what I talked about. Again, with the 26 and County Road 3 intersection of Brownsville, as I mentioned, our staff, our district state aid staff is coordinating with Brian on getting the analysis going. So we're excited to be kicking that off here in the future. There's a future Highway 44 project in Caledonia. The reason why I wanted to mention this one is because this is unfortunately one project that we had to move out of our CHIP years, but we're looking, what we'd like to do with this one. We know there's a lot of intersection concerns through Caledonia, and we'd like to have a future opportunity to do a study or analysis for those safety improvements that could be done independently or with the future Highway 44 paving project. We've been talking about that this past month because we have heard, concerns, and our district traffic staff has been involved in some of the conversations. And in particular, wanted to point out that at Highway 44 and Esch Drive intersection in Caledonia, that I know it's been reviewed by various committees, and our traffic group is, exploring different, what could be some different alternatives to help slow down that traffic and create a safer pedestrian crossing.
When you say slow down the traffic, that doesn't include dropping the speed limit?
I'm not going to say yes or no to that. There's a series of steps that are involved in adjusting speed limit. I don't know if David Singh is on the call
Yeah.
yet.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. David, could you answer that question regarding speed studies?
Yeah, that's a
First.
great question. Regarding the actual speed limit, it's really driven by your driving environment. So if your driving environment changes, where say we narrow the roadway, we add more items that make it look even tighter as an urban street, then speeds naturally will slow down. But we would have to do a speed study to confirm that it has gone down before a speed limit is changed. So essentially, the speed limit can go down, but that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to get them to slow down so that it will be safer for pedestrians to cross.
David, what is your full name for the record?
David,
David, what's your full
Sang.
name?
Sorry, I was on mute. My full
Okay.
name is David Sang, and it's spelled T as in Texas, S as in Sam, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, and G as in golf.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to another slide, but please, if you do think of questions before we conclude our conversation today, please do speak up. So three projects I want to highlight kind of on a regional level. We want to make sure people in Southeast Minnesota are aware of. One is the projects that are occurring on the Highway 52 corridor, going from basically the southern metro area, and in our area in particular, Cannon Falls down to north of Zumbrota. In District 6, we just this past year initiated a reconstruction of Highway 52 southbound, including we'll be making some access improvements and also constructing an interchange in Hayter. Again, this is a 3-year project, so if you're traveling, up to the cities, just please be aware of that, especially in the summer months, you may be seeing something slow down. Our Highway 14 expansion project going from Dodge Center to Owatonna currently is to the new 4-lane section is currently planned to open up to traffic on November 1st. This will be a great regional improvement, both for the safety that it'll provide, as well as our freight movement and economy. A little bit quicker connection if you're going from eastern Minnesota heading west. In the future, in 2024, we are going to be replacing the Highway 52 bridges. I'm sorry, the I-90 bridges over Highway 52 in Olmsted County and making some interchange ramp improvements. Currently, we have one movement where traffic, if they're southbound on Highway 52 and head eastbound on I-90, they have to stop and wait to turn left. We're actually, with this project, we're going to be designing and constructing a ramp where this will be a free-flowing movement and they'll no longer have to stop.
That would be nice.
And with that, I just want to, encourage everyone to stay in touch with us at MnDOT. There's multiple ways. You can follow us, with social media. You can follow Southeast Minnesota on Facebook or on Twitter. Here's a great link to find out what's happening with projects in District 6. It will have information on our construction projects. Most of our construction projects, they will get a website to provide construction project updates, and you can sign up for email updates for a particular project. 511 is a great resource, both in the summer and winter. And at any time, feel free to reach out to myself, Heather Lutz, the planning director, or my principal planner, Kurt Wayne, as well. And I just, really thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. It's great to be able to connect with you, and hopefully, and maybe next year, I can talk and chat with you guys in person. Any other questions for today?
Heather, what was the reason when back on the page showing funding from the 2030 to the 2031, the big drop off?
Yep. With that one, it really had to do with how they're forecasting the future inflation rates and where that's going with it. We had overall about a $20 million cut in those years. And every year that that forecast is updated, and that usually occurs in sometime in October. We'll get that information, and next year and for this coming year, they may change. And when I come back up, when we visit next year, hopefully it's a little bit closer to the green line of previous years, and we can get some of those projects back into the plan.
Okay.
And I should add, I just want to emphasize with that, it's really, again, kind of based on, that anticipated increase or decreases in our revenues too, along with inflation rates.
Yes. Okay.
Any other questions today?
Thank you for the presentation.
Well, again, just really thank you guys for the opportunity. And Brian, thank you for coordinating this. It was a good conversation. At any time, please provide us your feedback. I'm happy to talk to you and connect with you more than once a year.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll move on. Let's get the consent agenda out of the way. 3 items on there. Change Kelly Peterson's job classification from appraiser trainee to certified Minnesota appraiser, retroactive to 9/21. Accept the resignation of Jason Leahy, highway maintenance super specialist, effective September 30th. Thank Jason for 15 years of service to the residents of Houston County. And initiate a competitive search for a highway maintenance specialist to replace Jason.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, 3 items.
Second.
Motion made and then seconded to approve the consent agenda. Further discussion?
I just wanted to thank Jason for his 15 years because I've known him a long time. He used to do our township work for us sometimes with our dust control, and he's a good guy and hate to see him go, but wish him luck in his future endeavors.
Looks over your way there, Phil.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we move to action items. Since we have a large room of people, is it okay if we go to the number 18 item, the new hire first, and then move on? I mean, we've got a lot of people here interested in that, assumedly not at their desks, so they're here to pay attention to that, so might as well get it out of the way, if that's all right.
It's fine.
No
All
problem.
right. Yes, you're here. First item we're going to talk about is the Tara Kowalski, Children's Services Lead Social Worker, C42, Step 8, effective November 1st, 2021, conditioned upon successful background check. So, I don't know if everybody's had a chance to read the various emails with regard to this from Max and Tess. Diane has one in here.
Through 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah. So, Tess, we'll let you start.
Well, Director Puglisa and I are recommending the hire of Tara Kowalski at step 8. This position is a C42. This is an exempt employee position. It is not an hourly rate position. The words wage and salary are words of art when it comes to labor issues and when it comes to contractual issues. They have very specific meetings because they have very specific implications. The county does not confuse these words of art. We keep them very clear in how we treat our employees so that with regards to Department of Labor, both at the state and federal level, we retain these people in salaried positions so they are not overtime qualified. In my last statement to the board this morning, in email, I mentioned that even a simple Googling of the terms, you get a definition. So they're not just words of art, they're commonly understood to have those respective meanings. When we look at contract interpretation, where it is important that we understand that a contract is a bind, and we recognize it as our binding obligations as rights, as put forth in writing as an expression of what we call a meeting of the minds, what the parties have intended, what they have agreed to, what they understand their rights and obligations to be. This clause that is currently being raised, Article 6, was written in 1982 when there were when we dealt with the had one wage grid. If you look at the back of the contract now, there are two pay grids. They are clearly identified as pay grids. One, a wage, and the second one, the word salary, is inserted in there. I understand that some folks may think the word wage grid has automatic implications to cover salaried employees, but it does not. If the parties had intended for it to do so, at the time we inserted it in there, we likely would have had some kind of conversation about it. There was no conversation to change Article 6.
It's actually Article 11, is it not?
Or 11. 10, yeah, X1 is 11, it's not. You get my Roman numerals a little twisted backwards right now. The contract clearly provides for managerial discretion as listed in, I believe that is Article 3. And the employer has exercised that discretion if if the contract doesn't provide for specific provisions that cover an area, then it is deemed that reverts to managerial discretion. And that's all we are dealing with here. Now, to take the way it has been presented to me is, and the way I understand it is that there would be that step 4 would be the limit of the placement of any new hire within the AFSCME unit. I don't agree with that. Department head does not agree with that when it comes to exempt salaried employees. These people get and keeping in mind that if we were to do that, that creates what I would term an incongruency in the interpretation of the contract itself. That incongruency would be to limit the employer's authority under Article 3 to assigning salaried employees to something less on initial placement, less than even midpoint, which is not the case with the contract application for our wage earners, which is one step below the top. We determined to try to have, we being John Puglisa, the department head, and I, felt considering looking at the breadth of experience, the qualifications, both educationally as well as certifications, as well as the various, what I call progressively responsible experience in this area, that this is where we needed to be when making this offer to this individual. And I respect the union, its management, and its members. But I strongly disagree that the employer is held to language that actually is counter to both plain meaning as well as the terms of art that are used in labor law. And this is an area of employer discretion under Article 3. I'll take any specific questions you may have.
Why the last minute on this? Wasn't this put out, notified to the unions way before this morning and last night?
Last week,
Last week.
latter part of last week.
First contact was Friday or something like that. I saw in one of the emails.
I gave it,
Thereabouts.
I seen the first email yesterday, but was that put out Friday? I guess I didn't.
I saw
I'd
something.
have to go back and check my notes as to whether the telephone conversation, I believe, was even on a Thursday, but I'd have to check my notes. I strongly encourage the commissioners to retain the county's rights as an employer under Article 3 when there is, when clearly there are not any specific contract clauses that address an area of managerial rights.
Commissioners, can I add something about timing?
Sure.
Just to clarify, I think Commissioner Johnson's question, I believe we were trying to put together an agenda item for this meeting on Thursday. Tess and I met, and I know at least at that point there was a call and a message left with AFSCME representation. As it relates to the back and forth with emails, subsequently that I'm a little less able to speak to, but if you were referencing when the union was notified, that would have been Thursday.
That was a courtesy notification as well. What I would say is that I understand, thank you, John. I understand that labor units operate as a body, as a whole, and that it takes time to get communications, folks to get in touch with each other. I would say that if this is a point of interest for the parties, that it be duly negotiated at the table. That this is not the way we negotiate contract language. That it is done through the formal meeting, negotiate process, not through
Not through this process
this
here.
process here.
Just out of curiosity, do we have, what are the amounts we're talking about between the one position that they're saying that we should start at and the position that is it 52 cents or just wag? Just
It is more than a few cents.
yeah, I figured so, but
Commissioners, I looked at that actually this morning, and the difference between what we're offering at step 8 is $32.43 an hour. Step 4 is $28.32 based on the current contract. If I'm right, Tess, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
You probably have it in front of you there, and it sounds right, Director. John and I did not come to, when we make offers of employment, we obviously look to the contract to see what the parameters are. We also, look to the education and experience as it directly relates to the position. I understand there was an argument put forth that we don't have a master's prepared scale. Well, that's true. We don't have a master's prepared scale on any of our agreements. That is part of managerial rights in evaluating the experience that the person brings to the table, the expertise they bring to the table. And it has to be directly related, something that is beneficial to the department, to the employer. And the goal is as to keep us moving forward as an employer to provide the best services that we can.
When you talk about the level of experience and competency and what have you, is that not why we had the ability to hire from anywhere from 0 to 4?
Well, that's on the wage scale.
Right.
And on the salaried scale, we have as an employer hired, well, we haven't had this issue come up within this unit. We actually have 2 employees that are in the salaried, or 2 positions that are currently active in the salary scale, salary pay grid.
That were hired above the level
No.
4?
But in the county, across the county, our salaried employees have been hired anywhere from step 1 to step 9, depending upon the expertise they bring to the table. And it's not just the years of experience, it's actually because you can have 20 years of the same experience, and that doesn't make you a more experienced individual, but it's the level of expertise and capacity that they bring.
So across the county, we have hired people that are salaried versus wages higher than the step 4.
Yes,
Were those union or are they non-union people?
I'd have to go back and look.
Just curious. I mean,
Our other salaried employees happen to be in MAPE, and we do not have this restriction in that particular unit.
is it specified in MAPE and not specified in this one?
It doesn't have, it's not addressed at all. It's open, it's managerial.
So that contract doesn't have the same specifications as this one.
I'd have to go back and look word for word, but it's my recollection today that it does not. Keeping in mind, we have 6 different units, but
Yep, I know.
My perspective is that we need to, first of all, get good qualified people to take care of things for our residents. Once we get them, we got to keep them. And when I look at numbers, it's hard to get a master's or master list or criteria or whatever you want to call it, because you can have a master road maintenance person and a master person over here. They don't do the same thing. So that's the reason we need to have the latitude to get for that individual or particular department, I should say. In this case, it's public health and human services. So we got to get people that are good for our community and keep them. And I think if we went back to that step 6 as the union wants us to do,
Step 4.
four, I'm sorry, we won't get people.
Right.
And we're having difficulties in other departments. I feel that we need to keep, or first of all, get and keep people.
Mhm.
We don't want to be a training ground.
And I want to be very clear, there is a distinct difference in language between wage and salary that we need to keep clear. It may, individuals may feel it doesn't matter, but they are legally recognized terms of art that have different obligations tied to them.
So how are we gonna offset all this hiring with our budget over in the red? The budget's red, in the red quite a ways, did you know that?
Commissioner, this isn't an additional hire. This is a replacement.
It's a replacement.
It's a replacement.
We still gotta come up with the revenues to pay it, that's the key.
Well, if we are looking at cutting positions and attrition, through attrition or layoffs, that's a total different conversation that we would be having. I don't have those numbers in front of me. My responsibility is to do competitive equal opportunity searches to make sure our hiring packages meet DOL
So question,
and revenue.
this is a replacement hire.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
The person that left, what scale were they at?
The scale.
The same scale? I mean,
Yeah, they were on-
They
replacing-
were on the exempt scale.
I know the exempt, but
What
is it
step?
same step for the one that left?
Well,
That
I'd have to look at that.
Step 9, she was.
the one that left was
The
step
one
9.
was step 9. This one's coming in at step 8.
I think it should be noted that this person that we're looking to hire, we don't have an issue with her or her credentials. This is a union issue, obviously, but I think it should be noted that we would like to hire this person, given her expertise, her knowledge and experience. And like it's been brought up that it's our obligation as employer to have that discretion to do that. So,
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions for Tess at this time? I guess if you want to have a chair, and then I assume Mr. Forrester wants to have something to say?
May I make a closing comment?
Okay, sure.
I believe the only question in front of the board today is whether or not we have an exempt salary restriction, and whether or not, we're not here to negotiate. I feel strongly it would be improper that we're here to work with outside of our normal processes to, we don't negotiate specific employee wages.
exactly.
Mhm. Right.
And I just
Our
wanna
action
make that-
item is whether to,
Or nor their salary.
Right.
And so here we're asking for, our office is asking for, to keep that distinction very clear between our wage obligations under the wage grid and our obligations under the salary grid. And that Article 11 specifically uses wage scale language. You look at the appendix has both wage language and has a scale for salary employees.
Right.
Thank you.
How long has this job opening been open?
6 to 8 weeks, John?
This position is since toward the end of August. So the person who vacated the position gave us quite a bit of notice. We came to the board. The board approved the replacement of the position, and that's what this is. But the position has been open since the end of August.
So this appears to be going in 1,000 different directions, so I'll try and simplify things as best I can. We are not contesting managerial discretion in any regard. We are not questioning the qualifications of the employee either, at least on paper. I've never met her on paper. She seems like she certainly meets the standards that at least the county should be holding. We see no incongruency in hiring practices. If anything, it reinforces congruency to have a clear law. No one comes in above step 4 as it is laid out in the contract. I think Commissioner Severson pointed out something really important here, which is this notion that once we get them, we have to keep them. I think that is a very important part. The reality is here that the social worker lead with the very high qualifications that have been stated here probably would not come at a lower, at a step 1, an entry level salary, right? But step scale experience reflects experience with the county. Right? That is what the step scale is supposed to represent. You've been here for 8 years, you'll find yourself on step 7 headed towards step 8. And reality is that the county can't expect someone with this person's qualifications to come at step 1, so there is leeway built into it, right? You can hire someone at step 4, which would be commensurate with 3 to 4 years of experience. This managerial right is already baked into the contract. Going above step 4 would seem to be showing far too much discretion, far more discretion than is allowed by this contract. So I think Tess is correct to put the emphasis here on Article 11, subdivision B, because to me and to members of this bargaining unit, it does seem fairly clear. It does not make a distinction, as I said before, between exempt and non-exempt employees. It does mention the term wage scale, but simply mentioning this term wage scale does not imply that nothing in this subdivision would apply to an exempt employee, because as we can see here, anniversary dates will remain unchanged for employees who are reclassified. I'm positive that applies to someone who is exempt. Exempt employees also work their way through a step scale. Article subdivision B clearly affects them. And in terms, again, just of managerial rights, like we are not opposed to conversations with the employer when there's a position of need. We recognize that there's an urgency to fill this position, but this was not a back and forth with the union about a special dispensation or an agreement to amend the contract. This was just done and given to us. And so we are contesting it.
When was this Article 11 contract written?
It looks like this goes back to 1982.
What has changed in the climate of this country since 1982? Anything? Lots of unions have changed, a lot of stuff that's going on. This contract or article or contract's kind of old.
Why don't you tell me where you're headed here?
I'm just saying that this is adequated and you're relying on something that's from 30 years
Oh,
ago.
I see what you're saying. I think intentionality is pretty important here too. I mean, when this is entered into in the first place, you have to have some kind of agreement between the employer and between the union that this is going to work. At some point, the wage grid split. We have exempt and non-exempt employees, correct? I can guarantee you that from the position of the union, they would not be agreeing to complete latitude on the part of the employer to hire someone at step 9. That is not something I see in any of my contracts.
But there's a difference between exempt and non-exempt. And agree there's 2 pay grids.
There are 2 pay grids, but I don't know if anyone has it in front of them, they are on the same page. There is one description of step 1, and this little step 1 thingy right here applies to everything above it and everything below it. And it is 1 page, 2 pay grids on 1 page, but the same columns used for the steps.
But it seems like the managerial and the department heads have determined that this person has a lot of experience, would be good in this position at step 8, which is a step lower than the person that left. And I think that they're recommending keeping, in order to offer a position to a person of this, rather than lose this person and start over and not have anybody, we would be better off, the department head, manager, feel that we should keep the step 8 to offer.
Again, I think this goes back to what Commissioner Severson was saying here about once you get them, you have to keep them. You also have to keep the people who are already here. And what we're talking about is people who are going to be paid far lower than this new person coming in at step 8, training their superior, training someone who has just been here for 1 month. It's not a good situation for retention.
In my previous employment, I would have somebody come in who I trained, be my supervisor, and he makes a whole lot more than me. So, I mean, we got to look at,
It happens all over in the,
so I mean, a supervisor is supposed to be a supervisor. They're supposed to be the leader. And that's what we're paying for, leadership. If we take somebody off the street and say, okay, you're the head of this group, you'd be upset with that too. And you're having somebody come in and say, I'm the leader now. Somebody with 10 years is going to have to listen to somebody who just came in off the street with a high school education. You know, you're trying to get both ways. And I think that with the qualifications that are pointed out and somebody who will be the lead of this particular department, they need to be compensated for their skills.
Again, it's not questioning qualifications at all. We would like to have this person join Houston County. We would like this person to be in our bargaining unit.
But they probably won't take it at step 4. More than likely.
Can we offer them step 6?
I think Tess had a good point that this is not the place to negotiate.
this is not,
Things.
we're getting, we're going to the negotiation back.
Right, this should take place in a different setting, this conversation.
Our task,
Our consideration is like, this sort of thing happens all the time. Like I constantly have conversations with personnel departments about where someone should be brought in. If there is a change that, or you have to get around the contract somehow. But that conversation didn't happen. We were notified on Thursday that this would be happening. I said, before we do this, I'll need to talk to my people. And then on Friday, we got a message. This was being put before you. It's just a routine business item.
And your people, the union people want step 4. Period.
That is what it says in the contract. Yes.
That is what it says by your interpretation of the
We
contract.
would be willing to move this.
I mean, Tess makes the point of wage versus,
salary.
salary.
If she wants to
And
go before a
mandatory.
negotiator, we can go that route.
Well, our action item here is asking for approval of hiring of Tara Kowalski, Children's Service Lead Social Worker, C42, Step 8, effective November 1st. I make that a motion that we approve the hire.
Second.
So motion made and seconded to approve the hire of Tara Kowalski, Children's Services Lead Social Worker, C42 at step 8, effective November 1st, 2021. Conditioned upon the successful background check. Further discussion. The question here is whether or not we can, as a managerial position, do that based on the contract versus the union's assertion that it should only be up to step 4. It would have been nice if the union had been notified far in advance of this so that this could have been worked out without coming to this situation. It might not be over after we decide we're going to do it today that way, but I guess the only thing I look at is I wasn't involved with the hiring process, so I don't know what this person's, I understand the masters, but I don't know what the person's history is as far as employment. And, what do they bring as experience? You raised the point of people being paid less to teach this person their job. But is it to teach the person their job or to teach the person the system that we have that might be different than what? So it's not teaching the person, it's just advising the person as to what this position
There are a
is
couple
done
of
here. I mean, there's
There are a number of social workers behind me who could probably speak better to that than I could.
Yes, kid. Go ahead.
Do you want to come forward?
Come
You want to
forward,
come
Tess.
forward, Tess?
We want it all on tape.
Please keep in mind, we have a supervisor of record, and that is Bethany Moen, who's the supervisor for social services. This position directly reports to that supervisor. Yes, will be a whole interaction amongst a lot of different people when you onboard somebody and bring them into a new position. But the person that is responsible for the training of any new lead directly is the supervisor of social services. John, do you?
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I concur with that. And I guess I'd also concur with, I think what Commissioner Severson said. You know, when you bring a new person in, they are learning a new system. And my hope would be that our staff help with that. But Bethany Moen, the supervisor, is directly responsible for the specific training and onboarding. We'll use whatever resources we have from the state and expertise that we have internally, because it's important and it's valuable. And so, yeah, that would be our initial training plan. And obviously, when we bring new people in, we develop a training plan based on their experience. To respond to a previous question too, this individual, it's been mentioned that they have a master's degree in a related field, but also experience with county human services, experience with counseling, and a variety of different places related to children's services, and also progressive responsibility and leadership experience in previous organizations. So that's just a quick thumbnail of the qualifications the individual brings to the table.
Any further discussion? Okay, I think we'll vote on this by roll. So Dewey, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
I vote no.
Yes.
No. Motion carries 3-2. Yeah. So we move on from there. More action items. We'll start at the top of the action item list now. Is Brian still here? Okay. First is the consider approving resolution number 2142, approving the state of Minnesota joint powers agreements with the county of Houston on behalf of its attorney and sheriff. It came to us from Chief Deputy Swedberg and Attorney Sam Young. They are not here with us, but it's kind of a standard joint powers agreement.
We did get a copy of it.
Yeah, there's a copy of it. They just aren't here to talk. I don't see anything in it that's out of the ordinary.
Move to approve the resolution.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution number 2142, State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement with Houston County on behalf of its attorney and sheriff. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, consider approving court data services subscriber amendment to the CJDN subscriber agreement, authorizing signatures by Chief Deputy Swedberg and that's County Attorney Sam Young.
I'll make a motion to approve. This is subscriber amendment and authorized signatures.
So motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Funny, the sheriff doesn't sign these things, but I guess it's delegated duties.
I think that's, you're right, it's delegated.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Just so you know, it is the sheriff that signs it.
Mhm.
It is
And
Sam Yat that signs it. And then on the one is a resolution, Donna and Burns will sign, and Bob Burns will sign.
Board chair. Whoever the
board
board
chair.
chair at the time.
Which is.
Well,
you.
you will sign
I
this
am now,
particular
but
one.
The next time
Because
it
Yes.
comes up, it won't be.
I just want to clarify that it isn't Swedberg that's actually signing it, not
Right.
that
All
it
right.
really matter, but just.
No, not a big deal. I just,
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now here's to consider approving the state of Minnesota, I assume that's joint powers agreement
Mhm.
and authorizing signatures.
isn't that kind of repetitive of number one? Joint powers agreement.
This would sound like it.
Basically, we have a resolution authorizing this that you adopted, but yes, there is also an agreement that needs to be signed. And that's how they put in the request.
I make a
That's why
motion, we sign the Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement.
Second,
Motion made and seconded, approving the joint powers agreement authorizing signatures. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next one, consider abatement approval for the Jazuski parcel number 11.0001.000. Come on down.
Are we pronouncing that right, Luke? or-
Yeah, so this one is just when you got entered in the system, in our system, there's two different enters, and if you don't hit the right enter, it doesn't move the value over, and it just replaces the rest of the zeros. I'm assuming that's what happened on this one. 'Cause it's supposed to be 201,000, and it turned up to be 2,010,000.
That'd be a considerable difference.
Yeah, so it's. Yeah, once we, sent the statements out, then we do, I ran a report and it showed up that this one changed a huge percentage, so that's, and I think Carol's actually the one that caught it initially.
Actually, it was the company, that's the they sent information to.
Yeah. And so then we, made the changes and Carol recalculated it, so they didn't actually pay this tax.
Okay,
So it's basically just letting you guys know and, paper trail, and now with our new agreement, it's over the amount, so.
right.
It was recalculated and changed, so they paid the correct tax, their correct tax was like 1,832.
Okay. So it's a paper trail, not a cash transaction per se,
Yes.
although it does affect revenues per se.
Yeah, because it's over that amount, it has to be notified that it's a change in the projected.
And this is a one-time deal. This didn't happen. It wasn't a
Yeah,
carryover. It's a
Just
one.
a one time.
move to approve the abatement.
I'll second it.
Motion made and second to consider the approval of the abatement for the Jazuski parcel number 11.001.00. Further discussion. Don't leave yet.
Don't leave it.
Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. I'm just saving myself some steps. When you put together everything on this, on the listing of properties and values, do you have a listing of the tax valuation, what the tax capacity is of the county? And then what new additions, how much the new additions affect the tax capacity
Construction type.
from the new construction?
We can, I think after we do the construction, we can, well, actually, it won't be till after January 2nd. then we can-
You can't put together an estimate of what? new
Yeah,
construction-
I'm tracking the new construction this year, so.
That's what he's getting at.
I'm just getting at, how does the new construction affect revenue anticipation as far as increased revenue?
Tax
And that will be
capacity.
tracked this year. I'll be able to give an exact number on what new construction was.
Can you give us an estimate so we can use it for the budget?
Exactly.
Right now, I can't, I know our.
Sometime between now and
permit
December.
number, yeah, because we're just, October's when we start valuing new construction.
Okay.
So by mid-November, we should have a decent estimate, but that's probably too late.
That'd be fine to have it by then.
I know I can tell you our permit number is way down from years past. We were pretty average through June. And then our permit number per month has really dropped off, when the price of lumber.
New
skyrocketed
construction
in the
costs.
summer, it really affected the permit.
But are these the values now for 2022 taxes or the 2023?
These will go on for 2020, construction goes on. 2023 taxes will be taxed on there.
So we should actually be able to pull something together for
For 2022.
Start and so on.
Yeah, and I can run a new construction value for 2022, but they weren't all put in there. So it wouldn't be it'd be an estimate.
Right, right. That's all we're looking at. We're not holding to that.
Yeah, so we can run
Just a
that, we can
general.
pull that off a tax too, because it lists new construction.
Right, on the abstract, it's showing.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can get a
When-
pretty close.
And these are permits issued by your office.
Our
By
office,
zoning.
Zoning office.
zoning office, and then, so the county, and then there is some cities that do their own, Spring Grove, Brownsville, Heights,
And La Crescent.
Houston. La Crescent does their own, but I get those directly.
You do get. Yes.
Yes. Well,
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did, because you said don't go.
Oh, that's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, we voted on it.
Okay, thanks. Memory did not serve.
Okay.
Action item number 5, consider approval, resolution number 2143, final acceptance of contract number 315 with Farner Asphalt Sealers, crack filling for a total cost of $21,751.09. That's Brian.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. So each year we do a crack filling contract. What we usually do with this is we tell the contractor how many tons or how many pounds of sealant is allotted for that contract, and we cut them off at that point. So original contract amount was $21,750. The total work $21,751.09. So they did a good job. Several different roadways that they sealed or sealed the cracks in, so ready to close this project out.
That's what we had budgeted, so that's what we cut them off.
Yep.
Okay,
I make a motion, we approve the final acceptance of contract number 315.
Second.
motion made and seconded to approve 315. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the approval of resolution 21-44 to approve the 2021 prioritized bridge replacement list.
Yes, so each year we approve, usually this is done either late September, early October. This bridge priority replacement list goes to MnDOT. They use this to figure out stuff for their planning and for giving numbers to the legislature as far as estimated needs for funding for bridge replacement. This year is a little bit different than past years, is that we kind of actually run out of bridges to add to the list for year 5. So we're showing bridges for the next 4 years. In year 5, we're not showing any bridges to be replaced. And that's just due to not having anything to add. There are a few bridges on here that the township's either deciding if they want to replace it or not. So some of these might get delayed a little bit. But overall, this is what we have for bridges in the county that are coming up for replacement, and there's really nothing else to add at this time.
Motion to approve the prioritized bridge replacement list.
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution 21-44. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 7, consider approving grant agreement and resolution number 21-45, authorization to execute Minnesota Department of Transportation grant agreement for airport improvement, excluding land acquisition. Funds for the culvert line.
Yep, so this is another grant agreement to be approved for the culvert lining project that was completed. It came in for several approvals in the past. What this is, it's actually for, it's an agreement with MnDOT to essentially get the federal funds going from the feds to MnDOT and passed on to the county. So there is no state money, but this is how we need to have this approved in order to get the federal funds of that $78,000.
I guess if it's just to get it finalized, I would move to approve that.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the agreement for the airport improvement transportation grant. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 8, consider approving furniture request proposals for the purchase of desks, chairs, and shelvings for the new highway department facility.
So this actually only includes the desks and the chairs. Shelving, I was informed that a lot of the shelving that we had specified that we were looking at purchasing, you can no longer get. They're out of inventory. Stuff's been pulled from the website. We can't even order it anymore. In order to buy the next level up in shelving, it's double the cost of where we wanted to be at, where the original quotes were. So we're going to actually maybe buy a level at one shelf at the lower level down, see if it'll work, and then decide if we want to buy that or what we want to do for shelving. So this is essentially purchasing the desks and chairs from Alternative Business Furniture. The quotes are all on various state bid contracts. So it has $52,503.57 for the desks and other solid surfaces, and $19,741.82 for chairs.
It should be pointed out, this is the refurbished furniture or not?
Yeah, so the majority of it's refurbished. Some of it's new for the surfaces when they don't have that refurbished option, and then the chairs are all new, just because they don't do refurbished chairs.
And the shelving, we're just going to play it by ear and try out a couple of those cheap ones to see if they'll work, and then go from there. Correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And that'll come back to the board in the future at some point.
Relatively close to budget.
Yes.
Too bad we can't get the 11% sale. I'll make a motion to approve the furniture request proposals.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the facility or furniture request proposals for the desks and chairs. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 9, consider approving highway facility change order request 15-17 and 19-21.
Yeah, so this is 6 change order requests. There's I can explain kind of what each one is. So change order request number 15 is for they had to add a second block wall underneath the mezzanine area, just because when everything's designed up, you have the overall building shell being designed up, you have the masonry block on the inside being done separately. In order to make everything work with the mezzanine area, they had to add one more row of blocks down below. So that's total change order request number 15, $4,117.30. Change order request number 16, that is for, it's actually a credit of $10,124.84 for some, the original contract had $125,000 allowance for foundation work and other soil corrections by the hoop shed areas. They spent $114,875.16, so there was a little bit of an underrun there, so that change orders to get a credit back to the county. Change order request number 17. This is for when they bid out the gates for, there's 2 gates on the front side of the building that have power to them. The electric themselves to the gate area was not included within the bid documents. So these change orders are to, or this change order is to add conduit and electric over to the gate area. Change order request number 18 was previously approved, so we'll skip over that number and go to change order request number 19. This is to add a couple more data lines and outlets to the office space area. This is after walking through the building with Andy Mildy, IT director, just with how the phones and the computers all hook up for data and power within the building. Feels that we need to have a little bit more data lines in the building. Change order request number 20 is to install additional outlets within the IT room. So this is again for the servers and everything that's in that room needs to have more outlets in there. And change order request number 21 is for the ductwork within the units hanging from the ceiling in the warm storage area. The structure was not designed specifically to hold the weight of those units. So they had to have a little additional beams and re-supporting the overall structure in the up above in the roof area to hold the HVAC equipment. Any
For a total of?
Go ahead.
For the total of what? The total
Of all of them.
Total cost of all of them. I can add them up real quick. I don't have that offhand. That's about 11,000. Net, I can get to the exact number. $11,760.46.
Is that taking in consideration the 10,000 credit?
Yes.
Okay.
And based on
The credit was for that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, based on a meeting that Commissioners Johnson and Myrie had along with myself and Weezer, once you account for all these items and a few additional stuff that have not come to the board yet, there should be roughly about 100,000 plus in the contingency fund remaining.
So we're still well below the contingency and we're going to try to keep that.
Okay.
Yes.
Dangerous thing to say to me.
Well, it sounds like things we need as they progress, so I move to accept or approve the change orders as submitted.
I'll second it. Motion made and seconded to approve all these different change order requests. Further discussion. Brian, on that electrical, was the gate always anticipated to be an electric gate?
Yes.
So just an oversight as far as bringing the electrical to that gate?
Yes, and some of it is the controls of how that gate's going to function as far as, you know, if it's going to have push buttons, if there's automated sensors, there's different stuff that wasn't determined as we're going through the bid process. So.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 10, consider approving purchase of the John Deere 644P wheel loader.
So this is an item that we had in the 2022 budget. I know the 2022 budget is not approved yet, but we were notified that the price of equipment is raising pretty substantially at the end of this month. So instead of waiting until 2022 to come back for this request to try to save about $20,000, we'd like to get approval of this now and get this front end loader or this wheel loader purchased. So this is to replace the loader that's over in Houston.
So this will be going off the 22 budget, but we're just approving it now? Or is this gonna be in the 21 budget?
Yes.
It'll be in the 21 and we buy it now. If you wait, it'll be in 22, right?
But since this is because this is late in the year, we can still use the ARPA monies for lost revenue to buy this loader. That's what we're gonna use it for next year. We're just backing up to use it this year.
Okay.
It'll still come out of ARPA, is not gonna affect the 21 budget.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Right,
It's not gonna
right.
reduce the 22 budget because we've already made that adjustment in that calculation sheet that I got. So
Mhm.
really, it's a, do it this year, do it next year, but it's still going to be paid with ARPA money.
Mhm.
And if we
Either
do
way.
it now, we're gonna save $20,000. If we wait, it's gonna cost us more.
Right.
Right.
I'll make a motion to purchase a loader.
Specifically from ARPA funds.
Using ARPA funds through the lost revenue aspect.
Mhm.
Just say ARPA funds.
All right. ARPA. Sorry, Carol.
You want me to restate, you want me to redo my motion to that or just?
No,
Okay, that's- no. I second that.
Motion made and seconded to authorize the purchasing of a John Deere 644P wheel loader with the funding from ARPA to pay for it.
Just curious, what is the purchase price gonna be being with this 20,000? How much of that 20,000 is it?
Yep, so what the unit itself is $216,233.32. Trade-in value of $84,000 for the existing 2007 John Deere 644J for a net cost of $132,233.32.
What year is that old one, Brian?
2007.
2007.
We get quite a bit for the old loader, I guess.
Mhm.
Okay, that was just my thought. What's our bottom line? It's gonna be 132.
Yes.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 11, consider approving the request to have Weezer's Law Office assist with the airport land acquisition through FAA. Right?
Yeah, so I have been working with the Recorder's Office, our consultant, and Attorney Yant on trying to go through the process needed to go and to try to acquire some property from Irvin Barth for the airport's future expansion to have some more hangar areas and stuff. As part of that process, the FAA wants to have the county go back and look at every land transaction, any easement, any thing that would affect that land, all the way back to land patent. So they want to do a title search back into the 1800s. And dealing with the Recorder's Office, they were telling me it could be 6+ months out before they would be able to do the land abstract back to when that parcel was created. Dealing with our attorney's office, they are recommending that we hire Skip Weezer from Weezer Law Office to assist the county through this process. They think that we might have some quicker, easier ways around than going back to land patent for this parcel. We did a 40-year search. They have access to additional easements of record that they can use to see if there's anything that would harm the county in the future by buying land and potentially having some utility easement or something going through that property. And then they will write an opinion and get that submitted to the FAA. So we can hopefully get this approved and move the process along quicker than if we tried to wait and do the full blown process by ourselves. Tried to get a number from from Weezer Law on what the low cost would be and the high cost. So we had a range. And ultimately, it's very difficult to predict how much time and effort it's going to take on Weezer's part to go through this. So option number 4, item number 4 within their quote is additional services as needed for the project. We charge an hourly rate of $240 per hour. Plus any additional out-of-pocket expenses. So there is a little bit of vagueness in this just because we don't know how much time and effort it's going to take on their end, but this is still being recommended by both myself and the county attorney.
Yeah, Sam isn't qualified to handle something like this, or, I mean, why do we always gotta go outside all the time for all these problems?
You know, it's the time and effort on what's been involved, and Sam knows that Skip Weezer has been involved with similar type of projects and issues over in the city of La Crescent. So he feels he's very well qualified to do this. And it's more better use of everyone's time to have Weezer assist rather than doing it in-house.
And we have the option, we get 90% of it back, right?
Yes, so ultimately, once the land is acquired, we'll submit everything for the grant stuff, and this will be paid for by entitlement funds. So we should get reimbursed at 90% of the cost, potential for the state or the feds to pick up an additional 5 or 10%. So at most, it should be 10% of this cost should be county. The rest should be covered by other funding sources.
That's to hire users.
Right.
So by approving this is saying that we're going to purchase this land.
It is setting the.
This is kind of the goal.
So we already approved to buy this land?
No. But we got to go through the process so that, we don't know how much or anything else. It's just part of the advanced plan for the airport to expand and to move the hangar so that they're not so close to the runway, but we have to have the land. We haven't approved the purchase. We've approved the idea of moving forward with the plant.
Okay.
We got to see what we end up with for the price before we can approve it.
I suppose Weezer's gotta come in there and check it all out, so there's no liens or nothing against any of
That's
it.
the idea.
Yeah, I would imagine.
We haven't committed to buying the land. We've committed to moving forward with the planning process to expand and to improve the airport
Okay.
using the federal dollars.
If we would approve it, then we gotta cut the check for the land and then we get reimbursed by it, right?
Right.
But that might take 6 months.
So then what happens after that? We buy the land, then we got to move the hangars? Is that what you're saying?
At some point, it's like a 20-year plan.
And we really haven't decided if we're gonna build them or if we're gonna let them build them, have we, Bob?
No.
We have.
But if we don't have the land, they can't move forward with their plans. And again, going over a long period, we saw with MnDOT, they make plans way out and the airport, needs to, the funding gets to be a problem or an issue. So they need to be prepared and say, well, we have the land now, give us 10 years to do something with it.
Right.
Well, this is just like when you buy a house, I suppose it's the abstract background and all that kind of stuff. It's basically what it is. It's just, and we want to expedite this before it changes.
We don't know about federal funds either all the time, so.
Well, that's what concerns me a little bit is the federal funds isn't always a guarantee. And the 20-year plan that was approved, the county's costs just for the 5 or 10% that it is on certain projects was going to be roughly around $387,000 if I remember right. But
We got 3 counties that owe us $150,000 each yet coming our way.
that's just money being
Right.
borrowed.
We
That
get it all in one shot.
But Eric's right in his remembrance, because that $600,000 that we have in there now is the federal's portion of the 90%. The overall project, like Eric's saying, that's $300 and some thousand of county tax dollars to go to match those expenses over that 10 to 20-year period. Assuming everything stays the same.
Mhm.
But that's if we build the hangars. If we have, there's all kinds of aspects to this. I mean, if they build the hangars and then just rent the land, if we build the hangars and rent them the hangars, there's a lot of different things. Right now, the moving forward part of it is to try and acquire the land so that we can actually do it. If we don't have the land, then we can't do it, and it's a done deal.
Right.
And we're in a discussion there, it was 7.3, and they want to change it a little bit, it might be 9 acres when we get done. So it all depends on how our Pinky wants.
Wasn't, we were specific before in the purchase of the acres, weren't we?
We have a plan that we gave to Pinky about what we wanted, what we were interested in acquiring. And it leaves the field that it, you know, the field that he has and the piece that we take out leaves funny angles. So he wants to change it so that it squares up the field that he ends up with, so that it's right angles instead of, you know, diagonals and whatnot. According to the engineers, instead of 7.1, it goes to 9 acres. Well, we can change that back to the 7 acres and just reduce the area that, you know, that rectangular area that we end up buying. Because it still can be made to fit the hangars that we're talking about. But this is to accommodate Mr. Barth's requirements or request to keep his field squared up for the future owners. And it makes sense. But because our initial proposal was the land that we have shown on the plan, that's what we presented. After that, then he makes the adjustment and we change the area. But we have to use the original that we've applied FFA to the FAA with before we can make a change. It's a lot more different than dealing with the neighbors, something like that. So the question is, do we approve the request to have Weezer's Law Office assist with the airport land acquisition?
Get it paid for by ARPA, let's do it.
90% paid for. Need a motion to approve. Is that a motion, Greg?
So I'll make a motion to approve that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the hiring of Weezer Law Office to assist with the airport land acquisition. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Next item, 12, resolution number 21-46, final acceptance of contract 317 AAA Striping Service Company contract number 317.
Yes, so this has original contract amount of $175,743.92. The original contract, $184,015.24. Work certified, $175,743.92. So the final work ended up being about $9,000 less than the original bid amount. So they striped all paved roads, both center line and fog lines within the county, with the exception of County State Highway 24. There's a 3-mile section that did not stripe, but otherwise they restriped all roadways within the county this year.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve resolution number 21-46, the final acceptance with AAA striping service contracts totaling $175,742.92. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Hey, Brian, before you go, County Highway 3 down below, just this side of Brownsville, is that this year that they're gonna fix that depressed area?
It is supposed to be done this year. I haven't heard of when they're going to be getting to it, and I was going to be contacting them soon to find out what the schedule is. But yes, it is supposed to be this year.
Thank you. Next item, 13, consider approving the SCORE grant agreement and authorizing Amelia Minor.
Morning.
Good morning, Amelia.
Yeah, so I'm just looking for the authorization to sign the SCORE grant. That's our, the grant that we received from the MPCA to do recycling programs, as waste, and other problem materials. And so this went through the personnel and the attorney's office, and it's a pretty standard state grant. One thing that is different this year than what we've done in the past, normally we come back every year and do just a yearly agreement, but this year they changed it to 4 fiscal years, just for simplification.
So by approving this grant, it's good for 4 years.
Yep. The end date is June 30th of 2026, I believe. That is one thing it doesn't specify in here. It refers to a state statute, and so the grant is determined based on the population. Last year we had $69,692. I think that was issued in 2 separate payments, but I don't know exactly what we'll be getting for dollars for the upcoming years yet. And there's a 25% local match on that.
Oh, it's an open-ended grant.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure they get a number from the legislature and then they have to divvy it out, but that way they can modify it for any major changes.
We could see a large reduction in the future that we have nothing to say about.
I guess I don't know how that works exactly.
Whatever they authorize and send down the pipe.
I'll make a motion to approve the SCORE grant agreement.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the SCORE grant agreement. Any further discussion? I guess I don't like the idea of having a 4-year grant that doesn't tell you how much you're going to get, because now we're approving. I mean, they could say, well, we're not going to have a grant this year.
Well, then we don't have to have a match either, so.
True, but
Yeah.
you know,
What time of year would they let us know for the upcoming years? Is it usually in the fall for next?
I know our first disbursement comes out in July, I believe. It looks like in the past, the letter that was sent out to in form of the second half, I guess, was in April. So it probably would be later this fall. Yeah, I guess it says the first half of the fiscal year will be going out in October. So we should know, I suppose, soon what we'll be getting for next year.
they pay us on their fiscal year versus our calendar.
Yeah.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Amelia.
Thank you.
Number 14, consider rescinding the motion made on July 27th, approving a $50 payment to each county employee because of County Staff Appreciation Day. Since we found out that's illegal, we should rescind the motion.
I'll make a motion to rescind.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Just a curiosity question. Do you remember who made the original motions?
Teresa,
I think I was involved.
Should the, and it's fine that we made the motion, but by rescinding a motion, should it be the people that made the original motion that actually moved to rescind it? Or does it matter? On a blank look, apparently it doesn't.
I don't think that matters.
Okay. Any other discussion?
We do appreciate our employees. It's just that we couldn't do it the way we thought we could.
Could, yeah.
James Blank.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 15, consider purchasing a new copy machine for the sheriff's office. Andy's not here, but
Should we get that in under that ARPA money, shouldn't we? With that
actually considered under the project money.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve the copy machine. He did talk to us that he wouldn't be here, but did justify it.
Motion made and seconded, just as an explanation, that project money is that capital improvement money that
Mhm.
we have with a reserve of 954,000. It'll come out of there, so it does not affect the 2021
Mhm.
budget per se. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Carol, item 16, consider adopting the 2022 preliminary levy and 2022 preliminary budget.
Paperwork.
You're not telling us anything.
All right, so, each of the departments and each of the different funds submitted their budgets, and they went through a review with the finance committee. There weren't a lot of changes that were made, but just looking at some things that could possibly be eliminated. Some things that we increased. Highway department, we added a little bit for the utilities because we're just not really sure
With the new building.
on there.
Right.
So putting together that initial total is on the 3-panel sheet, it's the first panel. Then we took a look at what we could possibly use the ARPA money for. And that's where it shows the reductions on the backside. So you can see that the general fund, we have surveyor's equipment, sheriff mobile communications, road and bridge has bridge maintenance, steel coat, and equipment. And now this has been reduced by the amount of the purchase that was approved this morning. So in effect, those purchases will not affect the budget or the levy that's needed. They've been taken off of there. So when that all came, now this also, Human Services had the one position that wasn't filled. They proposed adding a social work position. The accounting technician position was taken out and the social worker ad was not included. So this doesn't have staff changes in public health and human services.
Okay.
So
you eliminated.
it
the
wasn't added,
54,000.
but that one wasn't taken out either?
The one was taken out.
Oh, it
The
was,
accounting
okay.
technician was taken out because it wasn't filled. If we had any idea of where we would go with the salaries, they would have gotten a sheet that didn't include that.
All right.
Since we were still using the 2021, it was in there. but
Okay.
It's taken out.
All right.
So we took out the 54,000 that
We took
initially.
out- Well, the 54,000 wasn't added in, but we also took off the 49,000 that was the accounting technician.
Okay.
Or 41,000. So looking at the middle panel there, in order to balance the budget, we would have to increase the levy by 5.278%. That's saying strictly levied to cover our budget deficit. We do have fund balance available and basically to cover, the only one we have to increase the levy on is the debt service. That's the requirement that we levy 105% of our payments. That's how we end up with the extra year at the end where we won't have to levy that final payment.
For the Justice Center.
For the Justice Center. Now, the highway bonding was done through the state aid.
Yep.
So that's, we know what our payments are. We send a request to state aid. They send us that money.
Right.
If it's dollar for dollar. So Down below, then it shows what would happen if you increase the levy by 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. You would have the budget deficit that's highlighted there. I think there's been discussion about adopting the preliminary at a 3% levy increase, which would leave a budget deficit of $308,000. But based on the fund balance, the audited 2020 fund balance and what we have designations for, there is money available to use fund balance. That was this sheet that you got. To offset the amounts, or some of the amounts for each of the funds.
To get to the 3% using the $261,000 available fund.
Well, that's the general funds.
From the general fund.
Human Services also has $360,000 on bridge. What did we say, 2 point something after?
$2.5 million left in the road and bridge fund after paying off the new.
Right.
Or not paying it off, but
Debt service.
the debt service. No,
Completing the
that is
project.
paying Weezer.
It is paying,
Completing the project.
right, because we got 3 million from
Right.
the bond, and then the remainder was us.
Right, and we've already transferred, I believe, $700,000 from highway to the capital projects fund. So if you look at the 6.9 budget, there's still 2.2 to transfer from there. So that's why we're saying 2.5 is available. Less a few contracts payable at the end of the year, projects, but they really do, the projects that they let, as soon as they let them, they get the money in. So they really don't have a cash flow issue with those projects.
Mhm.
They're really good about getting the money as soon as they can. And we probably have the money for 2 months, 2 to 3 months before they end up having to make a payment. So it really works out well.
Makes your job a little more.
Well, you know, I don't have to look at that report and see a negative balance in the
Yeah.
fund, which isn't ever good. And I guess I did tell at the finance committee meeting that I'll be requesting approval to transfer funds. We do have a negative balance in the capital projects fund. I think it's just like $200,000, but we haven't paid Weezer an estimate since August. There'll be one coming, and I'm sure they'll, be consistently larger than what we've spent in the past. So, it'll be a decision whether we want to transfer the entire amount or just kind of do it each time that they have an estimate.
Okay.
But that'll be next week's.
Yep.
So for right now, the board has to make the decision as to where they will set the preliminary.
I recommend 3% for the preliminary.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, and this is, you guys all know this, that what we set today for preliminary is what's going to be on our statements for
Right,
the taxpayers. So it's
but we can always come down.
right, but
But it's,
we want to keep it as close as we can, so not to alert taxpayers of, if we set it at 5%, they're going to go, what,
But Crescent did theirs last night at 5.5.
Yeah.
So I mean, the flag will go up and, people can understand 2 or 3%, but when you see 5 and more, it gets.
Caledonia's the same way.
Yeah.
but their 5% is nowhere near what our
Oh, for sure.
5% is.
But
So that, those percentages, they kind of tell a funny picture every now.
But by doing it the 3%, knowing that right now we're looking at a little over 5, we drop it to 3 using the available fund balance numbers to bring it to that 3. We're giving them a more realistic number of what they could expect.
Right.
Instead of saying 5%, knowing that we're going to be below 3.
Right. That's what I'm. Yep.
Yeah,
I
that's
agree
what
with
you're
you.
driving.
Yep.
Well, last year we went with 3.
Yes.
Preliminary.
Yeah.
And we've got things to look at after, I mean, later in the year, I want to look at Health and Human Services to see
That's,
if it's realistic as far as they're a little conservative on their estimate of revenue. Fine, but I want to see how they stand.
Right.
Like you look at the recorder's office, they've got an increase, but maybe it should be a little more. I mean, we gotta fine tune it after we get this, but we gotta have a number for now.
hopefully Mary didn't hear that, but that's fine.
Well, Carol, like on the 1%, it's 578,697. We do a 2%, it drops to 443,417.
The difference between each percentage is listed down here.
135.
1% difference for us calculates to $135,280.
Okay.
Per step.
Per percent.
I'll make a motion, we go with that preliminary at 3%.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adopt a 2022 preliminary levy of 3%, levy increase of 3%. Further discussion? Further discussion? Who seconded that?
I did.
Okay, good. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. And we have to do a separate motion on the 22 preliminary budget. Okay.
I don't think we did. I think we did that with the final.
No, it has to be a separate.
Oh,
it has to be separate.
for the preliminary also.
Yes. So our preliminary. Our preliminary revenue budget is 29,622,331.
What was, say that again, Carol?
29,000?
29 million. I was just gonna. I'll make it a motion for that 29,000 right now. No, yeah, okay.
And then our expenditure budget is 29,937,002. The difference between those two is the 308,371 budget deficit
Okay.
as adopted by the board. But I
Oh.
printed these for-
You didn't print that.
I'll make that motion for the 22 budget amendment.
Yeah.
Motion made. Is there a second?
It's like, well, I could give you one, but you know. So I would
Motion made
print-
and seconded to adopt the 2022 preliminary budget.
Who seconded that?
Greg did, I believe.
Further discussion? Knowing that we will be picking this apart line by line again as the quarter proceeds.
Well, I just like to commend you guys on finance and getting through this, and it's a lot of work and a lot of meetings you've had to do, so I appreciate that.
It's no different than you guys with negotiations.
Yeah.
Pretty easier than you guys with negotiations.
I trade, would you, Eric?
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is it today that we established the truth and taxation? date?
Yes.
Yeah, at least.
And
For
I think
December
we already
14th.
discussed that yesterday, or, well, at department head meeting, I
Yeah,
should say.
yeah.
And Donna is recommending December 14th at 6. Correct. I put December down.
Last year was at the 8th because of
We
the
didn't have
AMC was canceled, so this year it's on, so.
The AMC's the week before.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Are we okay with December the 14th? It's what, 6:30 you said?
Yes. Well, I think we did
It's a
6
Tuesday
o'clock
night.
in the past. Does it make a difference what time?
No, I don't care. 6 o'clock is fine.
6 o'clock. I'll make it 6 o'clock.
Right.
Motion.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to have our truth and taxation meeting on December the 14th, beginning at 6 o'clock. I think you have to be here for at least an hour for that, right?
Mhm.
Depending on how many people come to.
We're hoping it's only an hour.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion items, board updates.
Commissioner Burns, can I just ask one question?
Sure.
Someone is on the line. It's 507-725-3379. Can you state your name, please?
That's Mark England.
Mark England? Okay, Mark, I thought it was your. Thank you.
Okay. So board updates. And I'll take it one.
Let's start. Me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Not
Not much. I was at the city council last night. Like I said, they went 5.5. They also acquired 8 new parcels of land into the city.
Annexed.
Annexed, yeah. And we survived Apple Fest. It was over the
beautiful weather.
Oh, yeah. And they're going forward with the bid for the bike bridge going over Highway 6114 to finish off the bike trail. 3.2 million.
3.2 million? For bridge. Wow.
I think I wrote
They
it down
have some
right.
grant funding.
Yeah,
for
there's
that,
some grant.
just to
They've
clarify.
been working on that for some years. This is phase 3 of it. They showed some drawings and no, maybe I did write it down wrong, but it was over budget. So overestimate, not budget, overestimate. Move forward with it. Be done next year. About it.
I just had one watershed, river watershed meeting here day before our workshop meeting. So the main discussion was the review of the Crook Creek watershed project. So I attended in person in Preston. So that was the main. We discussed other things as well, but that was the main issue of the day. So
When you were there, were other counties talking about funding any of their watersheds?
I asked about that, and no one's done a final decision on that. Rod Peters from Dodge County said that his county board is looking at, they're wanting to spend their money on something that's durable and long lasting. And they haven't decided if, the soil and water projects qualify for that yet. They're looking into it, but there's been no final decisions on that. It's like what you brought up, housing and daycare and stuff like that. So we didn't get into the specifics on that, but yeah, I don't have anything else.
Other than meeting with Carol a lot and agreeing with regard to budget and looking at numbers, the only other meeting that I had last week was the AMC coffee meeting with regard to mediation. How mediation works and the AMC opinion on that. It seemed to me it was more of a promotion for people to take the mediation course up in the city, the 4-day course offered through AMC that you can then become a certified mediator. I don't want to be a certified mediator. And so it was interesting that they talked about enabling dialogue and helping them understand and resolving differences in the structures that you do. But it's an $800 course plus 4 days in the cities. I'm not going to do it. That's all I got to report.
It would work if both sides went to mediation.
Oh, yeah, that would do.
Was Eric, it was recommended that we take some training.
Oh, that-
You need more after today.
Yeah, I know I got some of those too. I had a Winlock public hearing, and that was just to gather input on all the plans for that whole Winlock watershed. And next week, Dewey is a regular Winlock meeting.
Okay.
Okay, October 11th. No, it's 2 weeks.
That's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Keep me
And I
posted.
won't be back for.
Okay.
Okay. And also, we had department head yesterday. Nothing earth shaking there. Each department head did give a little report on theirs. I think Donna's done with Wildcat now. It's all taken care of. There were only 2 switches. And she brought up about the December 14th. Carol reported about, we did get an unmodified report from the auditor, right?
Yes.
Which is good. And she's starting over for next year, or for 21, I should say. Andy really gave a talk again based on that Lewiston fishing that went on, that we really need to
Ransom.
watch it really close, because it's happening close to us now.
And he's got phones ordered for us
Mhm.
to use now. It hasn't, they haven't come in yet, but we're gonna be,
Scary when it's that close in a small city.
yeah, it used to be the bigger ones are the ones that they were, but now they're going after the small ones. So, and this keeps Andy up at night. This
Yeah.
this is a constant battle and worry.
He's
And,
gonna check it, everything.
Yep. So if you see anything suspicious, like that one that came supposedly from me but
Mhm.
didn't, I mean,
Mhm.
call. Don't forward the message.
Call him.
Call him or call the
IT.
people that you thought sent it to verify it. So,
Mhm.
Well, I called you and.
yeah. That's good that what you did. You
I
called me.
contacted Andy.
I did too, but he said he'd rather have us, verify it, and then there's a fishing button on our, somewhere on
I
our,
just kind of find it funny that
I can't find it.
right away you guys knew it wasn't for me because you know I wouldn't be doing
Yeah. That was.
Cheap Charlie over here. We ain't gonna be doing nothing like that.
Yeah, that don't even make
Buy
sense.
quick trip cards.
Okay.
And that was basically the main gist of the meeting.
They had their fire and tornado drill,
Oh, yes, that's right.
and they're gonna have to work on a little few issues that came up with that, but they're on top of it. So
I was at an airport meeting in the basement of the CJCC when that happened. Everybody came down. What do you got, Greg?
Well, I don't know, finance bubble going on for a while here, the last couple of weeks. So, let's see.
Okay.
And, Mary, when we have a highway meeting Friday, last Friday, wasn't it?
Yep.
And that's outside of a few changes that he brought to you today. It's going good, I guess. Don't look like no real hiccups yet.
Right.
This Fraser thing might be something that we'll talk about later on. See how that goes.
Yeah, as far as what's left for Fraser to do, the biggest thing is to tear down the old shop. But Weezers are withholding any more funds for that until, for sure they're going to do it. So they're watching that. They're keeping an eye on that because Fraser's going out of business, but they're still finishing their contract. So.
Oh, I got one question for Donna. Did the townships get ARPA money issued to them or they got to apply for it?
Okay, I'm sorry, Greg, can you say that again?
Do the townships get their ARPA money just sent to them or do they got to apply for it?
You can-
They need to apply for it.
Yep.
Okay.
And all the details, because I have been getting some calls from people where you directed them to me, but all of the details are on the
Minnesota,
the township website.
Minnesota Association of Townships.
Yeah,
map.
there's a tab and they
Yep.
can go there. And Carol showed me that, and then I have passed that information along, but that's where you should be telling them to go. Not to us, because we don't want to tell them wrong, but because the way that they do it is a little bit different than
Yep.
our process.
Well, I just don't know all the rules, so I thought, you know the rules, that's why I sent it to you.
I'm getting a lot of direct questions like, does this qualify or does this not qualify? And just like I say to you guys, it really is their decision and it's how they're interpreting that. And I mean, we can't be giving
For the
that
townships, you mean?
advice out. Yeah,
For townships, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I can read what's on there, but I don't want to say something and have someone use it for that and then have it be not eligible and then they're blaming the county. So just, you know,
From what knowledge I have of this is that only because my wife is a treasurer on the Houston Township Board is that Minnesota, Matt does a really good job of answering their questions.
Yes, he does.
And they have a lot of information there. And so you just got to stick with them people to get your answers clarified there. Because I actually feel that they have a better information source than AMC does right now. So
That's what I was gonna ask. I think that's my feeling.
yeah, yep.
Tonight, you should make sure that that is
Spread out.
reiterated to all the township
Right.
officials there.
Right.
I would assume they would be,
Yep.
but
Yep. They should. That should be announced. I don't know if Bob, are you saying anything at that? Or
No,
are they,
that's-
this is
what-
this is just for. It wouldn't hurt to talk to Marcos and have him mention that.
If you're still on the head of that.
Yep.
Because I had a few calls, they were wondering how they could get it or, you know, how they go through the process. And I said, well, I don't know the process, so you'll have to go, we're checking on your own.
and is it October 1st that they have to apply by? I'm pretty sure.
it is early October, yes. I'm not positive if it's the 1st or somebody told me the 5th that called me, but I don't know if that was correct.
But online,
So-
everything's there.
I'm just telling them where to go, but not
That's
That's all
saying
you can do.
anything that's gonna hopefully.
No.
Telling them where to go, huh?
Oh,
Telling them what website to use to find out more information.
there. You go.
I couldn't resist.
I thought the
where to
same
go and how to
thing.
get there.
I'm just saying, hey, we're trying to figure it out on the county level too. It is.
Couple of things I wanted to mention though. One was that the township dinner is tonight at the Four Seasons for those of us that have signed up to be there. Brian, you're still on the line. There was a letter, there was an agreement requested by Mount Prairie as far as snow plowing and assistance with their roads. And when I looked at that agreement, it was open-ended. It didn't say which roads or anything. And I'm a little leery as far as that's concerned. I don't want to open us up to all of a sudden we got to plow every road in Mount Prairie Township. I think from my perspective, it ought to be more specific. We're going to help with this hill or with that road and not leave it open-ended that we can go and help with every road that they've got.
Leave it open-ended.
I thought it was
Township.
specifically for Jumper Road.
Not the original agreement, not the one I saw. Brian, are you still there?
Yes, yep, so I can fill you in. So I spoke with Sam some as far as how we should write that agreement as far as detail for what roadways we plow. So this is a 10-year agreement. And do we want this, or does the board want to come back to the board whenever a road changes? Because we'll use this as a template for future townships for other roadways too. So the way that we kind of have it worded right now is that the roadways will be mutually determined by both parties prior to the winter season. So that way the township can say which roadways they would like us to plow. We need to agree to that. If we do, then we can go ahead and plow those throughout the winter. But we don't specifically list what roadways they are. So if the board wants the roadways listed, we can definitely put the roadways. So for Mount Prairie, it'll be Evans Hill Road and Jumper Road are the two roadways that they want us to plow for them this year. In the future, you know, they might want to add a different road or two, but I don't think it will change a whole lot. So do you want the roadways to be specifically spelled out in that agreement, or leave it vague, or can be changed? I'll come back to the board on a yearly basis, knowing that, you know, we do plow for 4 townships. So it could be 4 different agreements come back each year, every few years as a roadway changes.
I feel that we should leave it open to you for your determination what you want to take on or not take on. If we start getting specific,
I didn't read it that the county engineer had the choice of yes or no. It just said that we would be helping the townships with their snowplow.
Yep, I will open that agreement up and read the exact language that's in there right now. And it did change it a little bit since after I received your first comment back there.
Okay. I just don't want to leave it open-ended. Oh, ye of little faith.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
Just so long as you've got the control on it, Brian, not open-ended. Okay.
Yep. So for Exhibit A for the snow removal portion, what it says is Houston will remove snow and apply sand, salt, or rock to various township roadways throughout the winter season. Location of removal services will be mutually agreed upon prior to the start of each winter season. Snow removal services schedule will be determined by road conditions and Houston staff availability. Material application rate will be determined by Houston based on road conditions and prior guidance provided by the township. So we don't want them to go to us constantly and telling us, you know, you put on too much salt or gravel during the winter months. We want them to tell us in advance kind of how they want us to do their stuff. But everything there needs to be mutually agreed upon. So if they tell us something that we don't agree upon, then we don't need to do it as far as what roadways to plow.
Mutually agreed upon means that you can decline.
Yes.
And then you're not held liable for it.
Yeah. As long as it's a decline in advance, so they know they got to take care of the road.
It all has to be agreed on in advance. It can't be open-ended that, oh, I want you to do this road now. No, that wasn't what we agreed to.
Yeah, and what I might do with this as well is have the township email me exactly what roadways they want to have plowed for them that season. So that way we have in writing too, as far as what roadways we agree upon. And the bigger issue maybe isn't as much on the snow removal, but it's sign maintenance services. You know, Mount Prairie Township, they want to do some of their own signage, a little bit here and a little bit there. We've seen them put some signs up that us as a county has said, no, we don't recommend that sign. They do it anyway. So we want to make sure that everything is really detailed through either, if it's not in this agreement, through other email or notices that we have on file to show what we're doing, what we're not doing. But, you know, do we come back to the board for each of those things? I guess it's up to you guys.
Thank you, Brian. I will be gone starting on Friday for a week, so I won't be at next week's board meeting.
So Greg will have the gavel.
Greg will have the gavel. Not that we ever use a gavel, but you will have the gavel. Last thing I want to do, as long as Tess is sitting here, I just want to do a justification for my no vote with regard to the child services lead social worker. From my perspective, there should have been better communication with the union, and they should have had this worked out rather than to turn into a conflict. I think it could have been worked out if there would have been more time allotted to the discussion, if it was held off till next week's meeting or whatever, so that this could be resolved instead of turning into a conflict before the board. So that's why I didn't vote in favor.
And this was a tactful situation too, so. Yeah, I guess I don't want to comment anymore on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to explain my vote. It was not against the person, it was not against any of that. It was the timing and the way it was handled, from my perspective. That's all. Okay. Anybody else before we go to public comment?
On ARCA money, when are we gonna get together and decide how we're gonna distribute all that? What's our deadline?
The end of October.
End of
We have to have that tentative plan by the end of October.
I think we already have a basic tentative
Basic,
plan.
just have to finalize it, I think.
We don't have to follow it.
They need to come in.
I think we should discuss that at our work group session again to get it
Get it.
finalized so we can send it out as a report. Yes.
You know, it's a report, it's not finalized, you have to submit. a plan.
No, just to submit our plan is what I
Submit a
meant.
plan. And it doesn't bind you.
Right.
If something happens down the road, you know, timeframe that you have to spend it, then it changes. So it's not a finalized.
Right.
It's a consensus, not a motion type of thing. Basically agreement, or that's how I look at
It's
it.
a plan, and plans change. So.
Oh, yeah.
And then the planning commission, they would like to get something going on our ordinances and this land use plan or whatever.
Comp plan.
Comp plan. Did we ever hire anybody to help us with
We
that?
got a name of the person.
Right here.
Okay.
There's, what the city is using, was MSA?
MSA.
Yeah.
So we gotta-
La Crescent in their
And they
plan.
were very happy from what I understood.
They're doing it again too now, so.
I just
You're
kinda
doing-
wondering, they were asking.
You're doing it again?
This is the new contract right here,
Mhm.
How often
That's a
they've done?
different
10
plan,
years.
I think.
Excuse me?
I think that's a different plan.
Because usually only do the comp plan every, what, 10 years?
This is according to this, it's the comprehensive park and recreational plan update.
No, so it's.
That's just the name information,
Specific
okay.
We want
That's
to
the
know
company.
who did their comp plan, which I was gonna ask that and I forgot.
Yeah, the comprehensive land use plan.
It's supposed to be the same one, I thought, is
Okay,
what
maybe
Bill
it
told me.
is. It makes
He
sense.
just gave me that information to give me the name and address.
Okay.
But I'll confirm that. I guess I didn't look that close. He said, yeah, here's the people we used.
But I think what Greg's getting at was something we need to get started on and probably
Put out an
in late fall here, it'd be a good time to do it when, people are,
So they're slowing down now on the permits and stuff, so we should maybe have time to give a little time. And well, we got to decide who we're gonna hire here too pretty soon.
Carol, being creative. Is a comprehensive use plan?
yes, yes. we
Yes,
are.
we are. No, but is a comprehensive use plan considered a capital acquisition? Could it be considered that?
I don't believe so. Are you talking in terms of using that capital improvement funds?
Yep. Yep.
And, the board back in 2008 designated that as funds that they would approve for capital improvements. That doesn't mean you can't use that. I mean, we've already decided that we're not putting those insurance checks in there each year. You can designate whatever you want to use that. It's just nice to make sure that you have some, like the roof project, if we end up paying for the whole thing, or we're funding just a portion that's not covered by the grant, but it is available to use.
So the last aspect of this meeting is there any public comment? See any public other than our own people on the screen and the press? No public comment? We would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.